Hello, everyone. Welcome to um, our third session. That'll be Model 2 of learning how to become a robotic process automation RPA engineer. In the last few classes, we've walked through a lot of things, including why should you even be interested in RPA? And that's mainly because it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And you should get your slice of it. The other thing I've learned, because I'm a doctoral researcher in business administration, is that global corporations have made robotic process automation a part of their long-term digital transformation strategy. In other words, they have already decided that to gain competitive advantage, they have to incorporate RPA into their daily activities. And the reasons why that is important include the fact that RPA will give you consistent results, is more reliable, can handle more volume, and makes less errors, right? So if you're thinking quality, then you want something that has all those characteristics. So what I'm trying to say is that the large global corporations have already made RPA a strategic initiative. And more companies are following suit. So you just need to find your place and become one of those people who can deliver these solutions for these companies. Today, we're going to leave the realm of talking about what RPA is, what are the software tools that we use for it, which one should we choose, who are the people involved in delivering the service, what is the the way the service is delivered. Because if you remember the last class we took, I'll just open it up. We talked a little bit about a method of delivery for RPA, right? So, for example, I'll just open it up again to give you a visual, right? We talked a little bit about this. We called it a system of delivering RPA services, right? I talked at length about this in my last presentation. And you'll see that there are 6 gates through which you must walk to deliver an RPA solution. Discover and define, design, develop, test, hypercare, run, and in some cases retire. And in each of these phases, there's a bunch of deliverables. For example, in the first one, there's a process design document. The second one, there's a solution design document, and so on and so forth. So we've talked about, okay, this is the technique of delivery. But then how do we put actions behind it? How do we make it real, or at least something you can relate to? That's where we're going to. We talked about the people involved in delivering an RPA solution, right? And we also, if you remember, said we're going to sort of be number 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6 throughout the duration of this course, because we're not going to be working for a global organization, so we'll have all those things within our control. And so we're not getting to the stage where we have to implement what we've talked about, right? And that's what this class is about. I talk to you about the kinds of processes that are useful that are candidates for automation. And I don't want to go back through the last class. You can always watch the video. But one of the last things I did was I introduced you to the UiPath ecosystem, right? I told you there's an orchestrator, and there's a studio, and then there's an assistant that connects the first and second, right? So today we're going to take a deep dive into UiPath Studio. UiPath Studio is a place where it's like a blank canvas where you can make anything happen, right? They call it an integrated development environment. And that's because everything you need to do what you need to do is somewhere in there. The objective is not to know everything inside Studio, right? The objective is to teach you how to think through solutions. And you will find that rather than cramming every single thing, you have to like consider it in the context of the problem you're trying to solve. And we will walk through one such problem today, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is that you don't need to know everything that exists in UiPath Studio, but you do need to understand how to find what you're looking for, if you do need it, and how to apply it. And I'll teach you how to do that in a very non-technical way. So we'll move ahead now. But before I do, I showed you an example of what the orchestrator looks like. I showed you an example of what Studio looks like, right? And then I gave you an assignment. That's assistant. And I'll give you an assignment. I said, go and download UiPath to your computer, right? And if I click this link now, I'm expecting a result. It's not responding to me. I better go to the actual presentation. If I click this link now, or shall we say, control click, yeah, it's going to take me. Now I'm already registered, so this is kind of cheating, right? So when you register, you're going to land in this place, right? You're going to see something like this. What you need to do is download Studio. When you hit that, you go to your downloads folder. It takes a while. It's a pretty big file. You'll see something like this in your downloads. As you can see, it's like 1.1 gig. So it might take a couple of minutes depending on your internet speed to get that done. And then of course you double click on it and execute the file, and it will walk you through like the typical installation Studio. It might tell you during the process that you should close all your browsers. If you don't do that, it will force them closed anyway. And when it's done, it will ask you to like sign in through the Studio interface to the automation cloud. Once you do that, you should get something like this. You know, when you search your programs, you should see UiPath Studio, or it should be on your desktop, right? Well, it should be on your desktop like that. So you double click on that to launch. The thing that I wanted to talk about that I think is worth talking about is this. So I don't know if you can see my browser. I use the Edge browser, and that's what I recommend you use. I don't like have any agreement with Microsoft or anything, but that's what I prefer. And so that you follow me, I recommend you do that. So if you go to the settings here, you'll see extensions. If you click on extensions, it'll come out, something like this will come out. That's after you've done your installation. And you might need to click this eye here beside UiPath Browser Automation. When you do that, it will appear here, and that tells you that your browser is ready to be automated should you so need it. Okay, but now I'm going to assume you did everything I gave you an assignment to do and you have downloaded Studio. I'm going to show you what Studio looks like. So UiPath Studio, I'm going to hit it, which you can launch it from your desktop if you like. I'm going to hit it, and we're going to have UiPath Studio open. When it opens, you're going to get a pop-up that says, oh, I want to show you a video. I recommend you close that. Anyway, you'll see something like this. And this is the interface of the UiPath Studio. To the right, you will see open, close, start, tools, sort of like a menu, sidebar, navigation sidebar, right? Then you have the option to open a local project, clone one, and then you see recent projects. In your case, you won't have any. And then on the right, sorry, I think that was on the left, I meant to say. On the right now, you have new process, library, test automation, templates, or any of these. So if, for example, you want to start a new process, you'd click on this and begin the process. If you wanted to use something that you published in the past as a reusable item. You click on that, and test automation and templates, which is a bit advanced for now. We'll start with a simple process, and as we go through, you'll learn what those things mean. So back to where we were. We actually should be doing module 2 now. Can't imagine why it closed, but I'm going to reopen it. And this looks familiar. We talked about the UiPath ecosystem last week, right? And so we're going back there now. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time redefining those things, but this is just to clue you in on where we were and what these things are. I talked a little bit about this last week. These are some of the functionalities of the studio, and we're going to walk through it practically today. All right, the UiPath Studio now. Orchestrator is for later. After you've built something in UiPath Studio, you publish it to UiPath Orchestrator. So it's one before the other, right? And like we said, the UiPath Robot is one that connects both of them. So when you open UiPath Studio, you're going to see something like that. On the left side, you're going to see project activities snippets, right? Project activities snippets. In the center, you're going to see something that's called a designer panel. And on the right, you're going to see another opening, right? And you have to get very familiar with this interface to work with it. But everything you're going to do is inside here. This is where we were a moment ago. So as you can see, there are 4 types of projects: the process, the library, test automation, templates, right? And then we have different kinds of templates that you could use. We're not going to go into the details of them. We're just going to sort of navigate through what does the UiPath Studio look like, right? So on the top of the screen, where you see Home Design Debug, that's called a ribbon, the first part of the screen. And if you click on Design, which you see design is white, Home is blue, Debug is blue. So it means that we're clicked on Design. There's New, there's Save, there's Debug, and a host of other commands that you could click on there. We'll walk through them as we learn this automation. So that's called the ribbon, the top part of the screen. And then we have the activity panel, which is on the right side. I'm sorry, on the left side. Then you have the designer panel in the center. On the right side, you have properties and the outline panel. On the bottom side, you have something called an output panel. Again, they all have their functions. And, I'm just telling you this so you see how the system is structured, right? Not going to make much sense to you until you start using it, but good to know, right? Now, the ribbon, like I said, is the top part. You have all these commands. If you click on debug, you see a different set of commands, but we're looking at design, right? So that's the ribbon. And then, if you go back one step, you see that there's Home, Design, Debug here, right? So I kind of expanded on that there. What is Home? That's the first thing we were looking at that showed the 4 different types of projects and open a lookup project. That's the Home button. Design is what we just looked at, the screen before, this one. The menu is right there. Has manage packages, test manager, app, web recorder, computer vision, user events. Debug is another menu. You use that when you're, maybe testing what you built, right? So here we are. We're looking at Home again. Again, we're familiar with this screen. We just looked at it a few moments ago. The design, we've seen. Some of the things design does is, creates new files, save old files, edit files, use some of these wizards like the app, web recorder, computer vision, table extraction, manage packages, publish is the last one on your right to Orchestrator, right? Those are some of the things it does. Debug, on the other hand, is a different looking menu. It's mainly for testing a project, step by step, right? If you want a lot of depth into debugging, you want to go to docs.uipath.com and look for debugging actions, the documentation on that. All right, so there is a search bar at the top of the screen, and you can use that to search for things you're looking for. That's called the universal search bar. If you look at the arrow, that's where it is. And then there's something called the activity panel. If you go to the activity panel, you see all of this stuff on my right, and everything is useful. If you want to expand all activity, you use that plus. If you want to collapse all, you use the negative, and if you want to view your options, you use the filter. But other than that, you basically find what you need in the activities panel. The project panel is on your right. It basically shows you the dependencies that you are using. Dependencies are, for purposes of knowledge, I don't know that it's important that you know the science behind it, but you can add dependencies depending on what you're trying to do. And best explained in the context of an actual scenario. But what you see here are the ones that come by default. Excel, mail, system, testing, UI automation. They come by default, so you can add to them, right? Again, you have the option to expand, collapse, refresh, show all files, file explorer, all of that. You have that among your options, right? The designer panel is the one in the middle, and you basically drag stuff from the side, from the left side, into the designer panel, and then use it to do what you are trying to do. Some of the things that you're going to find it useful for is teaching the robots how to handle data. You're going to use variables and arguments a lot. A variable is anything that could change but happens frequently in the course of doing something. Arguments, on the other hand, are, you have things called workflows, right? Like you have, if you want to take a number of steps to get something done, that's called like a sequence. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5 is a sequence. But the minute you take that sequence and separate it from others in a way that it can be used not just in this scenario, but as many times as possible, it starts becoming like a workflow. And I'm going to show you all that. And then in such an instance, a variable will become converted to an argument. But again, I'm talking a lot. We'll soon get to the nitty-gritty, okay? The properties panel, whenever you pull in an activity into the center of the screen, these are the properties of the activity. It'll show you, and you can make adjustments to them. The outline panel just shows you, the step, the way the project is flowing. All right, we talked about the default activities a while back. That's what we talked about here. Dependencies, right? So you have, these are some of the things that, they come in, let me see, perhaps I'm not describing this well. So I think at the risk of, befuddling what I'm trying to accomplish here, I think we should approach this from a practical perspective. All of these things will start to make sense to you as we work a case. And so what I decided was, instead of showing you sort of the way I was now, which is not a bad thing, it's like back in college, they give you all these theoretical concepts and you're like, okay, when are we actually going to use it, right? So I think we can do the same thing by solving a problem. And that way you kind of get a sense of, oh, that's what he's talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and open a project. Remember, I just launched UiPath Studio. I haven't done anything. So I'm going to click on the top right element. When I click that, it's going to ask me, what's the name of your process? I'm going to call it Instacheck Data Collector. Collector. Surely you can spell better than that, right? and I'll clue you in on what all of that is. I'm going to build this robot to get us, let me use a better description, retrieve information from web portal for populating Instacheck app. Won't make much sense to you, but very shortly I'll give you some background to that. So when you open, you're going to see that thing we've been talking about theoretically. The studio is going to open to you, right? And then, within the context of solving a real world problem, we're going to try and learn how to use this. As you can see, the ribbon is here. There is on the side, there are 3 tabs here: activities. I'm going to click on activities, project, snippets. Each time you click on them, something changes, right? Excuse me. Not sure. Okay, right. I was like, I'm clicking on activities, nothing's happening. So you see activities, you click on, it looks different. Click on project, it looks different. Click on snippets, it looks different. So all of them have their usefulness. But for purposes of this training, these are the things, the activities are the things that you use to get stuff done in the course of executing the project. The project itself is, what is this project? Like this main, you can see it's a little bowl. That's what we're working on now. That's the name here, and that's what we're working on now. But it's a generic name, right? We have to have a project that we're working on. And that brings us back to this point here, where I was trying to explain to you that you have to look at this from the context of the problem you're trying to solve, right? So before we start doing anything, the question is, what problem are we trying to solve, right? So fortunately, we have like a real world problem that I believe I can share with you. And I'm going to start off by, I believe I had opened it before, by opening this document. Problem statement doesn't want to open. Can't imagine why. Right, it's responding now. Okay, so we have this, this is our problem. We have a company. Our company's name is called Instacheck. What does Instacheck do? Instacheck is a company that helps people to check the authenticity of products. When I say authenticity, it may not be a very common scenario here, but for example, in Africa, there's a lot of counterfeiting going on in Africa, right? In other words, you're not sure what you're buying is the real deal. A lot of piracy, right? So the idea is that people have a phone, pick up a product, you want to buy a product, and then just scan the product like that, the code on it, and that immediately runs a query to the person who made it to say, were you the one who made these things? And when that happens, you get a response from such a person, right? And just to show you what it looks like, you get a response from such a person that looks something like this. This is what the application looks like. Come on. I don't know how well you can see the screen. So you're logging into something that looks a little bit like this. This is the home screen. And yeah, so you might, if you try to query, you scan the product, for example, I can pick up this can of milk, right? And it has a code on it, and I just scan it like this. And immediately it queries the manufacturer, and you get something like this in response. So this product was manufactured on this date, it expires on this date, this is the person who made it, this is the emergency contact number. And, if you purchase it, then the product is taken off the market. in such a way that somebody else cannot clone it and try to resell it again, or something like that, right? The point being that you have a way of checking with the manufacturer that, are you the one who made this product? And that's what this company does, but it does this through an application called Instacheck, right? So I'm just showing you that so you get a sense of who we are, what are we trying to do, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We run an organization that helps people to be able to check the authenticity of what they want to buy before they buy. Now you can download this app on the Google Play Store if you wanted to try it out. But right now we're on the back end of things. We're the ones who are delivering the service. So you have an inside track. So what I have done is, just try and create a scenario where we can practice robotic process automation. So if indeed our app is one that if I pick up a can of milk and I scan it like that, and it gives me a result, the question is, how does it know who made this kind of milk, when it was made, where it was made, when it expires, that sort of thing? The answer to that question is that we have to get that information from the manufacturers, right? And so somebody has to do that work of collecting the data so that it's immediately available to people to access, right? But what our product does is that it allows people to be able to check, like if I like Ralph Lauren, for example. If I went to a Ralph Lauren, or I saw a Ralph Lauren shirt or shoe, I would want to know for sure that it was a real Polo by Ralph outfit, right? So if I scanned it and the app told me, I don't think so, then I wouldn't buy it, right? But without that, I just have to guess that, is this real or not, right? So the idea is anti-counterfeiting, and we're going to build a solution that helps this company deliver the solution. Now, back to the problem statement, since you have a clearer picture of what we're going on. So what we're trying to tackle. So what we're doing here is we have a scenario where somebody has to do the work. And the work involves, number one, let me just open a new browser. I've described it here in words. You have to go to this is an example scenario, right? Go to this Barcode, lookup.com, and open the browser, right? Somebody's work every morning. Now, for example, I'm looking for Polo by Ralph. Now, again, this is for any and all products in the world. So this is a lot of work. So if I run a search here, all the things that they've made are written here, right? But now I have to take this information, Polo by Ralph, men's sunglasses, copy it, right? It's not even allowing me to copy it, you see, which is a problem on its own. Take all this information, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And then I made like a clone. So I built this application, which you don't have to, you just have to use it. It's called Instacheck, right? Give me a moment. I actually thought I had opened it, but forgive me for that. Yeah, so I made one for the Windows version, and I'm just going to launch it so you see what it looks like. So this is an example of what you might have on your phone. So I'm the guy on the back end. I'm the one who puts in the information into this. The consumers just scan and they get results. So I have to log in as this guy. So I log in here, and then I will say my username is this, and log in. Then I have to now take that information I was showing you up there now, just on the website. Polo, Ralph, Lauren, men's. So I type that in. Polo, Ralph, Lauren, men's sunglasses. It's a little longer than that, as you can see. And it's not even allowing me to copy it, you see. Then I have to type 805.367 here. back in the app, 825.367. Now, look at how long it's taking me just to type this. You know, imagine if I had to fill out this whole page, right, and then submit. Well, that's somebody's job. Okay? So therein is the problem. Because if it takes him that long just to type for one thing, there are hundreds of items here. I know it doesn't look like much, but you see that there are hundreds of items. And he has to do this every day for every product, including, say, Nestle. Right? See, so there are different types of Nestle products. There are hundreds of them. He has to do this for all of them every day. So, and he has to keep this updated so that people will come to the app and they can scan and get their validation immediately. So the person's job is to basically go here, search for products, for example, right? And then all the products will be displayed, as you can see here, right? So if I search for, say, Polo by Ralph again, I don't know why, maybe Ralph Lauren paid me. I don't know why I'm going on and on about Ralph Lauren, but you know, they would all pop up, right? So you search for that, and the idea is to transfer this information from here into the Instacheck app so that people can query on demand, right? Again, when they finish querying, what they'll get is something like this. If they, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to close it, but I can quickly retrieve it. I hope you are still following along. Yeah, what they'll get is something like this as results. So maybe if you found it, you'll say, oh, success. The item was validated as original with the manufacturer with the following details. And then it'll give you all these details, right? When it was the barcode, it was made on so dates, expires on so dates. It'll even tell you, you know, how many days to expiry if it's a product that has an expiry date, right? So anyway, that's the goal, right? But the problem is that you have to employ people to actually update this application every day. And as you can see, it can be quite tedious to type just one item in. I mean, I'm trying to type just this first one here, the sunglasses. If you had to do that manually, that would take forever. You have hundreds, and this is not the only product, you know, you have to do for, you know, Nestle, you have to do for Christian Dior, you have to do for anybody that makes anything. It's got to be somewhere inside this app so that people can, HP, Lenovo, everybody that makes any product, all of them, you have to put their products in here so that people can quickly check, is this product real or not? Hence, you have to hire somebody to actually put in that information so that people can do that on demand. And that is the problem. Number one is go to the web app, search for a product. When it is displayed, copy and paste the details of each listed product, like the name, barcode, category, manufacturer name. Then each product has a registration code, a PIN code, a factory address, country, date of manufacture, expiry date, location. You have to get all of that and enter it into this application here. You can see all the fields are there. And that is what people will query to get results. A lot of work. And so, you know, you have 10, 15 staff doing that kind of stuff just to keep it up to date every day, right? So again, I've shown you, I've already launched the Instacheck desktop app. That's what this is. And then log in as quality control officer, which I did, right? If you like, I go back one step. So you see that I hit quality control officer, I hit login, and then I logged in here, right? And then I now start entering data one by one. For each product, I hit submit after I'm done. A lot of work. We are going to automate that, right? So this is the task. This here is a pictorial representation of what I have been visually describing to you. The first thing you do is you launch the Instacheck application. After you've retrieved the information from this website, you know, that's number one, right? Then after that, you now launch the Instacheck application. you take all these steps. Launch, navigate to Quality Control Officer, log in, enter username, enter password, click submit, which we did. The data you got from the website will be in a certain location. Then you now start entering the product name, product barcode, a lot of steps. And then you enter the product barcode, product dosage, NDC, category, manufacturer name, all of these things. And then click submit when you are done. If it's finished, you log out of Instacheck app. If it's not finished, you go on and start again. Enter product name, enter barcode. So it's a repetitive process that before the advent of robotic process automation, somebody would have had to do it manually. Our example, our class exercise, is to teach a robot how to do these two things. The first is go to the barcode lookup, search for the product, and get the details of the product. That's number 1 to 4. Then the second part of the project is do all these other things, right? So in the process of doing all of this, I'm going to close this now, we're going to learn how to use UiPath. Okay? What I've just described to you is a business problem, right? And that takes us back to this place of the automation life cycle, right? We have discovered and defined a process, right? And normally you will walk into a situation where you don't know anything about this and they're going to describe it to you similarly to the way I've just described it to you and say, this is the problem. We have to go to this website every day, copy and paste this information and get it into this other application. And we have to do this thousands of times every day. It is just too tedious. Can you help us find a way to get this done? So after you listen to them, you come up with a document called a process definition document. Now, where I discover I define now gate 1. What I have done here is I want to show you, a better view, okay, of gate 1. Right. So just gate 1, so that it's not so busy like the way we were looking at it in that other screen. It's just gate 1. Fancy. I don't want the reading view, but I want the slideshow view. All right, so typically I'm starting from the left now. Typically when you get into a situation, they will come to you with many problems. They'll say, person A, person B, person C will come and say, these are the problems I have. You are going to have to choose one. So in this case, I've chosen the barcode, go to a website and retrieve information, and then put it into Instacheck app. And that's because I think that it's very tedious for a human being to be manually typing that stuff in every day, especially because it's time consuming, there's a risk of errors, and it's really not efficient. As long as there's another way of doing things better, it's not efficient. So I might say that this guy spends 8 hours a day just typing in this stuff into this application. If I build an automation for you, I can get it done in 2 hours instead of 10 hours. That's a huge benefit, right? The other thing about that is that maybe you needed 10 staff to do this for several companies. I can build one automation, right, that will get it done in a fraction of the time. Maybe it used to take you 100 hours to update this thing weekly. I'm going to get it done for you in 10 hours. It's a tenth of the time. And I'm not going to make mistakes, right? And I'm going to be reliable. So these are the benefits, item 2, that we're talking about. We're going to save you time. We're going to make you more efficient. So you think about that, and that's why you choose that process out of the many that they'll bring to you. And then they'll define the as-is project, the as-is process, which is what I just described to you. They currently will go to the website, type in the search manually, and then start copying and pasting, or worse, maybe just have another screen and be typing the contents into the Instacheck app after logging in. Now, if you can type fast, that's great, but still inefficient, right? And then number 4 item is agree on the to be. In In other words, right now you guys type it in manually. Do you mind if I change that to a robot doing what you're doing, right? And then if the answer is yes, then we'll go ahead with the automation. Most likely it's going to be a yes, because if it's taking you 100 hours to do something and I get it done in 10, man, that's a big difference, right? And then now that we've agreed on all of that, we have a situation where we've got to document it in something called a process definition document. What I have shown you, the Word document I have shown you is an abridged process definition document, right? It's a very abridged one. That was very short, okay? It does everything. It describes, okay, what is the problem, right? And then how does it get done? It's described here. And then it even gives you pictorial representations of, okay, this is the process. These are the steps in the process, which are quite a number of steps, right? There's an abridged process definition, but there are templates you use, such as what I have here. This is a UiPath template. There's a process definition document. I just, you put the project's name. For example, you might call this Instacheck, Instacheck data entry app, process, right? And then you've got to describe what's the purpose of the project, what are the objectives, who are the people involved in doing it, what are the things I need, describe the process itself. So it's a very, very detailed document that you are going to have to learn how to write these things, but it's essentially parroting what the problem they describe to you. You write it here. We're building this automation because we want to save time, reduce errors, and so on and so forth. These are our objectives. We want to reduce processing time by 90%. We want to blah, blah, blah. So each process is going to have a different representation, of course, because there are different processes. You talk about the processes you use. In this case, we use Instacheck app. Instacheck app. We use Edge browser, right? That's where we get the data from. We use Microsoft Excel and so on and so forth. And you describe how are things done, which would be what is written here. Right now we go to web portal and do all these things, right? So all these things that I wrote very briefly here, that's what goes into this process definition document, right? And over the course of this class, we might go into more detail as to how that's written. But so that we can make progress, I made a very brief, very abridged version of this. So you get the problem and we can go about solving it, right? But you've got to have a vision of where you're going. You've got to have an understanding of what is the business problem before you even start doing anything, right? So I've taken you through this very quickly so that we can get to the point where instead of me lecturing you about, oh, this thing looks like this, let me show you how it works. And at the same time, you're learning, the concepts, all right? So if we revert to where we started from, our problem is to do number 1, 2, 3, 4 right now. We need to go to this website. We need to search for products. We're going to do Polo by Ralph. And we're going to get every single product that Ralph has made recently. And then we're going to store it somewhere, right? In other words, copy and paste those details into some location to later enter into the Instacheck application. But that will be like a phase 2, if you like. So let me just let me do it like this. Let me separate it like this so you can see. I don't want number 5. I just want this to be like a separator, right? This is phase 2. So we'll do phase 1 in this class, right? And that's what we're after. Go to this portal, search for the products, in this case, Polo by Ralph, and then retrieve the data. We're going to enter that into the Instacheck app later. So this is the website, and this is just one product. The sunglasses is one. The boots are another. It's another type of boots. There's another type of. There are literally hundreds of this thing. So if I click next, you see that the number of pages has increased to 6. If I click next, you see that the number of pages has increased to 9. And each page is full of stuff, right? You have to get all this information. So it's a lot of work. It's no joke, all right? And this is what somebody does manually as of now, okay? So the question is, how do you use UiPath Studio to get that done? UiPath Studio is an integrated development environment. You can do anything you want to do. So number one thing is you want to name this main sequence in the center that gets Instacheck data from input source. You know, you try to be descriptive, right? You can't just leave the generic names there. Then before you can do anything, you have to understand the problem, right? Which we have done. So our first problem, for example, now is we got to go to this web portal, barcodelookup.com. And this will be your first introduction to how things work. I always recommend that you put everything into a box. So you click on activities and you look for something called sequence. Although it's right there at the top. You type sequence and you see that it's the only thing there. You drag that into this box here. And then the first part of you right click on this sequence to rename it. The first part of it is go to Barcode website, right? Right? That's the first task, right? According to what's written here. Go to this place, right? To do that, there are a number of ways you can do it. Which is another thing about UiPath. You see this filter here? If I click on it, these are the things that drop down. You click on classic. Always make sure that's checked because there's an older way of doing things and there's a newer way of doing things, right? I'm going to cancel that search for sequence. And now I'm going to introduce you to something called a variable. A variable is something that might change. And when you're making variables, there are a number of ways to do that. You can use the assign function, which I'm going to drag right up here. Anything we're going to use in this project, this is a good place. Again, like I said, use the sequence first. So let me put in the sequence and I'm going to rename this sequence as maybe assign project variables, right? That's the things that might change. An example of something that might change is the name of what you're searching for. For example, I said we're going to look for Polo by Ralph. When we finish getting all the Polo by Ralph items, I might say I want to look for Christian Dior item. So that can change, right? What I'm looking for can and will change. So that's a good example of a variable. So I might call this the product to search, for example. Might be a good name to give such a thing. When you want to create a variable, come to the right hand corner and say, click on this save to, click in here, and then hit Control and K. Control and K at the same time, right? That's one way to do it. Is to say set variable. Then make sure that product to search. You can't put spaces, but you can differentiate them by capitalizing the next word. Then hit enter. That's one way to make a variable. Product to search. In this case, we are looking for Polo by Ralph. Open. So I want you to see this well, so I'm going to do something. See this little plus button here? I want to say open an advanced editor. I want you to put like double quotes around everything you make. I'm going to make this bigger by using Control and scroll button so you can see. I'm going to do Polo by Ralph. Any text that you're using in an automation must be inside double quotes. I'll say save. So in this case, I'm saying Polo by Ralph is the first product I want to search. But if I wanted to change it, I can change it anytime. And I'll show you how. The other thing that might change is which website are we going. Sorry, you can't leave things the way they are product name. Just say name, right? The other thing that might change is the website. So I'm dragging in another assign here. Again, rename, assign, websites to search. Right? This is Control K is one way to do it. The other way to do it is, you see this thing called variables here? I can click on variables, and then I can now say right here, websites to search, right? And then that's it. If I click outside here, that's it, I'm done. I've created the variable. But I have to come here and actually write it here, website to search, then to appear once I click your W. So I've created the variable the same way. The first time I used Control plus K to create. This time I went down here to this variable bar to do the same thing, create the variable. But then what's the website? It's written here in our problem definition document. https www.barcodelookup.com. Try not to take any spaces. I'm going to copy that. And again, to the point I made earlier, you want to make sure they're always inside double quotes, okay? If it's text. So I've assigned variables. Then the other thing I will want to do at some point in the future is I want to change that. If I don't want to search for Polo by Ralph and say I wanted to search for Nestle or Christian Dior or Garmin or whoever else makes products, right? Heineken, anybody that makes products, right? I don't want it to just be product Polo by Ralph that this automation searches, right? I'll have to put in that functionality later. But for now, I've said here that these are the things that might change. I might put another product here, or I might go to a different website to get the information. Okay. But how do I even actually do it? It's the next step. That's why I go to what Barcode website comes in. I search activities for something called browser. Let me just say browser. And you'll see a number of applications. Use, let's say application, a number of options. Use browser, get browser data, set, a lot of options. So you have to kind of know what you're looking for. In this case, we're going to use, use application browser or browser, sorry. Drag that in. There's another way to do this. If you go down here, if you search among these options, there's something called open browser. That's another way to do it, but it's under the classic way. So if you hadn't selected classic here, you won't see this. But that's another way to do it. I can drag the same thing in here and they will perform the same function. Open browser, then I'll tell it to open. But we're going to do one at a time. So I'm just going to delete this for now. The way you use application browser is different from the way you use the classic version, right? This is a more modern application. So if you want to use this one, you go here. You actually go ahead and open the browser. When it's open, this is what it looks like. This is what the home page looks like. So you just go to this thing here. It says indicate which application you would like to automate. Make sure that is open before you come back here. Then you click here, and then it will sort of figure it out. You see how it turns green? And then you just click anywhere here. And then it immediately understands that, oh, it's trying to go to www.barcodelookup.com to do something, right? So you've done that. But then what is it that you want to do when you get there, right? That's the next thing. So it gives you an option here, perform task. And our task is to basically, if you remember, type in Polo by Ralph Lauren here and hit this search button. So you can teach the automation to do that by searching activities, right? So again, I'm going to close this, and it goes back to the normal. What I want to do is type into this place. If you remember, type into this little search bar here, Polo by Ralph. So there's an activity called type into. Really? Type into. And you can see there are several types. CV type into, which underscores the fact that there's more than one way to do things, right? So there's, for example, there's UI automation, there's classic. So I'm going to use the UI automation because that's the one that we're working with. I drag that into here. And then it says, where do you want to type into? So you just click this little thing here. And then it goes to the next thing that was open. And then it sort of automatically helps you. You just hover around where you want to type into. So as you can see, this is looking green. This is looking green. So if I click this, it will think that's what I'm trying to do. So, but I'm trying to type it here. So I'm going to hover around where I'm going. This place that says enter a barcode number or search item. If I click there, it will sort of automatically collect data. But then, you know, it has a pretty good idea that this is where I'm going. See, the target is green. But it wants you to like provide what is called an anchor, right? So, you know, just choose anything nearby, such as this search button or this find info on any products in seconds. Just something nearby to say, this is relative to what I'm trying to click. This is what I want you to look for. It's called an anchor. So if you click that, it will tell you target and anchors are okay. If you hit validate, it will check, and if it's okay, it will say validation successful, and you say confirm. So it understands that it's in that box that you want to type into. But then the question is, what do you want to type there, right? Because this cannot be blank. All right, so remember I already said I've already assigned a product name, a variable called product to search. And right now I'm going to introduce you to something that you shouldn't be scared of. It's called scope. This variable here will not function outside of this box here. I want to minimize this box by collapsing it. So in other words, if I tried to search for product to search here, I wouldn't find it. See, there's nothing here because it is limited to inside this box. I can only find it if I did how do I explain this in a way that you'll get it better? You know what, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do like, you know what? Okay, let me rephrase. Like I was saying, it only works inside this box. So if I wanted to increase the scope of where you could see this item, I have to go to these variables and make sure that it is at the top level, get Instacheck from data input source, which is this, right? I have to do the same thing for this so that you can see it from anywhere within the project. Get Instacheck data, which is the top level window here. I close this. So if I go back here now and I try to search for product to search, you'll find it now, right? So now what is product to search? Is equal to Polo by Ralph. You know, if I change it to Nestle water now, which I can do by just opening here and typing, it's kind of manual doing that, but you know, I might change it to Nestle water or something like that, right? That's how I change it. But right now, like I said, we are doing Polo by Ralph. So we keep it simple. And I basically told it type Polo by Ralph into this green box. But then I also have to hit search before that actually happens, right? So I need something called a click activity. So I'm going to clean this and then search for a click activity. We're using the UI automation technique, not the classic. So you see clicks are here. I drag it in here, right underneath. So the next step is to click search. And then it's asking me to indicate what I want to click on. So I click this and then hover around what I want to click, which is search. I click on the red now. So to collect target information, sometimes it automatically gets you an anchor, which it looks like it did here. Don't always get that. If it does, validate. If it's successful, hit confirm. So you have basically taught it how to search for Polo by Ralph, although you haven't actually done anything. So two things I want to leave you with. Always name what you're doing with what you're trying to do. So use browser, perform task, click, search. This is correct, but this is type into find info box. Be very specific. Don't use the default values, right? Click to search for products. I don't know why I typed that. No, search was already there. Click search button. Right? So the idea is don't leave it as default. I think you can get it. So here we are. I've asked it to do right now. I've asked this automation to go here and do this. I've done 1 and 2 in a few steps, and essentially we've learned several activities. Number 1 activity, we've learned how to use assign activity. We've learned how to use what else? I'm sorry. We've learned how to use the assign activity. We've learned how to use the sequence. At the same time that we've learned how to use the use application on browser. And we've learned how to use type into, which if you rewind the video, you'll find out. We also learned how to use click. It's noteworthy that these are all modern or UI automation type activities. These last 3, because there's classic and there's UI automation or modern. So we've learned all these things just now. So not bad. You've learned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 activities in just a few moments, right? But then, does it actually work? So I'm gonna close this. And then I have one more thing to do. I'll save the work, and then you see this blue play here. I'm about to click on it and just watch the computer. My hands are off the mouse. So first, the robot checks, did you do everything right? If it does, it moves on to what you asked it to do. So you see it open it up, you see it type Polo by Ralph, and you see it hit search. Right? You see that I did that in a couple of seconds. Now, we made a bit of an error here. Number 1 is you've got to tell it certain things. Like after I made that search, you just close the browser, right? So you have to tell it, don't close it, which is where you get introduced to properties, right? So I'm going to say never, right? I'm selecting the use browser. Then I say never, don't close. And then I think that should be fine. We'll do it again. I hit play. So you have to leave it open for us to continue because we're not quite done. We just made a search, right? I made a mistake. So you've got to make sure that you're running from the beginning. I was clicked on something. So going to the beginning, you just hit play, right? Make sure it's at the beginning. Kind of like was running it from the center, if I'm not mistaken. So give me a moment. First, you gotta close everything. Okay, yeah. it's open. So I'm going to do it again. So click. There it goes. It's already done. So it took about 6 seconds, but this time it left it open for us. So this is our objective. Now you might notice that this browser is kind of minimized, right? So that gives us an opportunity. I don't want it small, I want it big. I want to see everything. So I can sneak in another task here, another activity here called minimize. Oh, sorry, maximize. So just drag this in here. After you open it, maximize the window, right? So yet another activity we've learned, maximize. And then I'm going to close this and say, so you do that a lot. You might need to do the same thing a number of times. But so anyway, I'm closing this now. Come on. And then I'm going to say, start again, hit play. It's going to check again, are there any errors? You see, it opened it up well, did the search, and it finished in like 5 seconds. It's done. But here we are. This is what we said search. So great. We've done step 1 and step 2. And as you can see, you don't need a PhD or an IT degree to get that done, right? I'm sure you're getting a little bit excited about what is possible, right? But then that's just one phase of it. So this sequence I have here says perform task. I don't want that. I don't want generic names. So I want to rename this to say search product, search for product. And then at the risk of overwhelming you, I want you to say that, I want you to notice that this says www.barcodelookup.com, right? But if you remember, we said website to search is also the same thing as www.barcodelookup.com. So it would not be wrong for me to say that this, if I delete this and say this is website to search, it will have the same effect, right? Because I said website for search is equal to this. If I change this to this, I'll get the same result. And just to prove it to you, I'm going to close this again. Not to worry, we'll soon move on. And then I'll make sure I'm at the top of the automation. I'm going to save. And then I'll press play again. So as you can see, nothing changed. I just made it tidier. And if I wanted to change to another website, I would just change the variable, right? So now we have defined that, okay, we know how to search for the product, but we have to stay within the browser. The next thing, after we search for the product, we have to, remember, this is a box. We've got to be inside this box. So I want to bring in another sequence here, right underneath this one. And this time, I'm going to call that, so let me expand it so it doesn't confuse you. So remember, I don't want this generic names here. Never mind. It's not responding to me. So, okay. Search for product. And then inside this sequence, after we search for product, according to our instructions, we're supposed to, when they're displayed, we're supposed to get the details of each product. Now this is a little bit trickier. As you can see, we have a number of products here, right? And so you are teaching the robots to come and read this stuff and copy it and store it somewhere. But there are a lot of them. To accomplish this, we use something called, again, first I name it. I'll just call this get product data. We use something called table extraction. So I come here and I say extract. I search for extract. Now I've got to be clicked on activities. That's important, right? I come here and I search for extract. Just look at this. It says extract table data. There are many options. So I think an important thing to take away is that you've got to know what you're looking for. But since I'm showing you, you do, right? So I drag this one inside here, extract table data. And then it tells me indicate where you want to extract. So this, you got to pay attention to. So click on this, and then you have this dialog box. And then you've got to click on select data to extract. Now, it's always good to just have the whatever it is that you are trying to automate open. Any other thing you have open is going to be a problem for you. So like it's opening to another page now because I have something else open and I don't really want that. So when you find yourself in such a situation, you've got to click maybe stop selection. Yeah, I don't want this open. So let me try again. Select data to extract. Still opening that one. I wonder why. Okay, just for the sake of sanity, I'm going to cancel. And I'm going to, because I don't want to confuse you at this stage, I want to make sure this is closed. Okay? So there's no risk of something else being open. So if I click indicate in Edge now, it's this browser that we're trying to automate that's open. So select data to extract. And then you see this, the cursor allows you to position where you want to select. So I want Polo by Ralph. So if I click on this, it's going to take some time to gather what's written there. Then it's going to ask me, do I want the text or do I want the URL? I'm interested in the text. So I click on the text. Then it automatically figures out that, there are other things in a similar position, which is great. But I come to this new column 0 and I give it a name. I say, this is product name because they all have different uses, right? And I click confirm. And I select data to extract again, click on that. Then I come back. I want barcode too. Click on that. Then it's asking, do I want text? Yes, I want the text. Same thing. Take a moment to gather that information. Come on, baby. Oh, right. Sorry, I hadn't clicked it. So I also name it barcode, so that, we're on the same page. There's still more to extract. As you can see, there are 4 lines. I click select data to extract again. I click on that. It asks me, do I want the text? Yes, it's the text I want. I give it a name. Text is category. And then lastly, I got to click confirm first. I've got one more. And then click on manufacturer. It asks me the same thing. Do I want text or URL? I want text. And then I got to name it manufacturer. Oops. So I click confirm just to be sure. And, right now it has understood that automatically that I've got this is what I want. But here's the thing. I don't just want this one page. There are many pages. So you've got to click on this extract data from multiple pages if it's more than one page. So I click on this toggle button to say yes, and then I have to indicate what's the next button, which is this little arrow here. So I hover over it and I click on it to collect the target information. As you can see, it's okay. Then you hit save and close. So now that you've done that, this little widget that you dragged in called extract table data, you want to call it for current product. You want to call it that, right? And then, okay, you have the data. What that does is that it pulls the data into, if you like, the robot's brain. But if you want to see the data, then what you want to do is you want to come here and tell it where do you want it to extract it to, right? So a number of ways you could do it. You could type Control K here, which is my recommendation to you. Don't try it any other way. Or I'm going to hit escape again. Or you could come to this place where it says data table, which I would like to do now because I want to familiarize you a little bit more with properties. Data table is, a table of data. It's a special type of data. There are different types of data, which we'll go into later. Text or string, numbers, Boolean, which is true or false. Data table is a type of data. something that has rows and columns. So if I hit Control K in this place, I might say product DT for short, for data table, right? And then I hit enter. So Control K, type the product, the variable name. Remember, you can't put spaces in between. It's going to give you an error. Then hit enter. So when you do that, that appears here, right? So you're basically saying when you extract that data from the website, store it in this table, which is great. Now, even if it stores into the table, you still can't see it. How do you see the data that you've extracted? I'm going to introduce you to an activity called write range. My proposition is that we take that data and write it into an Excel sheet, right? Then we can take the data from the Excel sheet and enter it into Instacheck later. So the activity for that is write range workbook. There are many ways to do it, but this is one of the fastest ways. Write range workbook. Can you see it? Remember, if you notice, I didn't type everything, but if I wanted to, it's not going to hurt. And it reduces the options that show up, right? Write range workbook. Right? That's it. That's the way I want to do it. So again, before I drag it in, it's a different activity from this. So I want to put it, well, I guess it's okay. I can drag it in here. Don't mind me, I said that. Write range workbook, which is, I just want to give it a non-generic name, which I recommend you do. Write range workbook for current product. So, in simple terms, write the data somewhere, right? But the question is where? So I don't have any workbooks open. I'm just going to call it, remember, it always has to be, anything you're writing in string or text has to be in columns. So I'm going to open in here and I'm going to say, I want to call my Excel worksheet product database today, right? And again, that's not important. But then all Excel workbooks will end with .xlsx, right? So store it there. That's one. What's the name of the sheet? You might call it, you can call it anything you want to. For example, you could say something like sheet 1, right? And save. Always remember it's in quotes. And then what do you want to write in the workbook? This same product DT. Product DT. Go to the variables section. Make sure that this product DT, you can see it from everywhere in the process. That's getting Instacheck data. That's important. All right. So what we've done now, we've added something else to it. We've said after you get product table, after you open the website, extract the product data and write whatever you find there into this workbook called product database today.xlsx and on sheet 1, worksheet 1, right? The sheet named worksheet 1. That's all for now. So when you do that and you save, this is going to create this write range. If you notice here, in properties, I'm selecting this one now. There's something here that add headers. I want to add headers. I think if I don't check this, it's not going to put headers. If you remember when I was creating this thing, I put headers. I put product name, manufacturer name, barcode. It's not going to add those headers if I don't check this before I hit play. So after that, that's it. We're pretty much done. So to prove it, I'm going to go to the top of the automation, make sure that this is closed. Right, okay, it's the only browser open anyway, so. And then I'm going to hit play and you watch for yourself what happens. You can do it dance while it's working for you. So as usual, it first checks the project for errors, which, believe me, you can make if you're not proficient. So it types in your search, hits the search, then you won't believe it. It has done like 4 pages already. it moves very quickly. So it's getting all the data, and it will make sure even if there are 1,000 pages, it's on page 20 now, 22, 27. It's now on 30 something page, 36, 37. So it keeps going. If there are 1,000 pages, it's copying the data, in ways that no human being can dream of, matching, right? But as you can see, there are a lot of products. And imagine if you had to do this manually, how long it would take. Hours and hours and hours. But, we're on page 70 something now, page 80 something. At some point, the list of products will finish, and it will immediately go ahead and write it inside the location that we, so I believe it's done now. That's why you see it's not moving. If you look at the bottom right of my screen, you will see like a green play button, right? So when that green play button, this one, when it disappears, that's when we know our automation is done. So it took about 1 minute and 42 seconds for that to be done. I'm going to cancel this last search. I'm going to hit on project here among these things. And then you see this little folder here. That's what tells you like the folder the robot is in. Literally, when you navigate to your Windows, if you open it, you see it here. And you see that this is the Excel sheet that we asked it to create right here. And if you open it, and I'm going to just select the entire workbook, double click here beside the A to spread it out. And you'll see that there are about 340 products here that it found and copied out in seconds, for us. And so in the next class, we will move towards teaching it how to even enter these products into Instacheck app. Now, I'm sure you are amazed at the speed, but this is the power of automation. It takes the drudgery out of human work. And, with every, experience you have of this, you will realize how useful it can be in the lives of human beings. So never again will one human being have to be copying and pasting and typing just because they want to get this information somewhere, right? And, what we've done is search for one product, Polo by Ralph, right? Or one producer, if you like. So I'm just going to add on some of the things we learned. Actually, I made a little presentation for this. I don't have to type it. I think here, these are the things we learned. So we learned assign activity. We haven't learned the second one. Use application browser. We learned click activity, write range. So there's actually something missing. Click activity is not here. Sequence is not here. But these are some of the things we learned today. Okay. So you are becoming quite the guru, right? So I'm just going to type this. Oops, I'm sorry. I'm going to type, did I type sequence? Yeah, I did that already. So extract table. Write range workbook. That's it. Then we learned about variables. And we talked about two types of variables. String, that's normal free-flow like www.barcodelookup.com. And then there's also data tables. So, in a single practical lesson, you've learned how to automate a rather difficult process and get the data out of it. So, the thing about what we have just made is that it'll work for a Polo by Ralph situation. But what if I wanted to change to something else, right? And we'll wrap up this class soon. what if I wanted to change? I don't want to search for polar bear. I want to search for Nestle. The way we have it set up now, I have to manually type, Christian Dior, here, or Nestle, or I don't know. I don't know why all these names are feeding me. So I have to type like Christian Dior, right? If I wanted to search for Christian Dior, and if I did that, it would do the search, but I'll have some problems because number one, I said you should write it into sheet 1 here, so it's going to write on top of what it wrote, So if I run this automation again, it's going to do search for Christian Dior, not Ralph. So let me just change this to sheet 2 so you see. And I press play. So if I do that, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to have closed this first, right? I'm going to hit play now. Don't know if so just so you see it all play out. So you're not seeing it, but it's actually running in the background. So let me just click on this so you see what it's doing. Okay. So, you don't necessarily have to see it working. Those are called background automations. You can actually use you can be working on your computer while it's doing the work, for example, in such a situation. It doesn't need to have control of your mouse and keyboard in the sense that you can't use it. So that's why you couldn't see it. Not all automations are like that, but you can have it do that. So again, there are a lot of Christian Dior activities. This one looks like it's more than the. Okay, well, it's about 80 something. But as you can see, all I had to do was change the name of the product and it's work for another one. And that's the beauty of automations, right? They're very flexible, they're very adaptive, they're very efficient. So it didn't care that I'm looking for another product, it still did the same thing, right? I think it's done now, that's why it's not moving. Yeah, about 100 pages, this one too. So it's writing them to the Excel sheet now, which I hope I closed. It's done now. All right, so 2 minutes and 20 seconds this time. Wonder why. But, again, I'm going to click on project, folder, and I'll go and look for this same thing. And you will notice that sheet 2 now exists, and this time it's like Christian Dior, blah, blah, blah. That's what. So you can see you can use it for multiple products by just changing certain things. So those things that you need to change, they are called variables. Product to search. So, but I don't want to be typing this manually. I literally had to type Christian Dior, and then I had to come here and change this to sheet 2, which is still pretty impressive, right? From the speed at which I do things. But you want to create something more with more finesse, right? So what I would do is create something that allows the user to type. Yeah, I'm sorry. We'll use, we'll allow whoever wants to use the automation to just type that this is what I want. So to do that, I'll show you. I'll show you another activity called input dialog. So activities here, click on Activities tab, and search for Input Dialog. See it here? I'm going to drag it right here. Right? So here I'm going to put some text in here that says, what's the title of the dialog box? What's the title of whatever message box you're displaying? And you'll see it. So enter product to search. Right? Because you've got to be a little bit technical to know how to change that Christian Dior I did. I don't want to bother the automation user with that. And remember, I said product to search is what I want to assign the name. So just a minute. I'm trying to see a way I can describe this without... okay, so I'm just going to say enter product here. Product to search here, right? And just to be consistent, I will. And then whatever you type in here, I want you to store it inside product to search, right? I don't really know how to explain it different from this, but I'm creating if I wanted to change this to Christian Dior, I have to come in here, I have to type this, and not everybody knows how to use UiPath, right? So I want to give whoever is going to be using this automation the ability to just change it without being as technical as knowing to look for product to search and come here and change it, right? So I use something called an input dialog. I design something that allows the user to interact. User interaction screen dialog box. And you'll see how it works, right? So when it types in whatever it wants to search, the robot will understand. You don't need to come into the robot. But before that will work, you will notice that I had to change the sheet name. Again, I'll go to project, I'll go to the folder, and I'll open this. And inside this product, I have sheet 1, sheet 2. One is Polo by Ralph, one is Christian Dior. So why don't I just name this Polo by Ralph, for example? Just like the product I'm searching for and Christian Dior. That's the approach I want to take. So I might name this Polo, just to finish my thought. Polo by Ralph, the way I named it, and I might name this CD, Christian Dior for short, So that's the approach I want to take, instead of manually changing it. So not saving the changes, right? So what I will do is I will say, instead of sheet 2, I will say, why don't you just use the same product to search? Whatever you put there, just name the worksheet that, right? So now that I've made those changes, I'm going to hit save, I'm going to press play, and then the first thing that's going to pop up now, which, by the way, it's a good thing I had the input dialog, it's going to ask me some questions before it moves forward, which will demonstrate to you the use of the, it's asking me, what do you want to search for, right? It's a good thing I had this pop-up there, because I actually should close this browser. So this time I want to search for, I don't know, Nestle water, maybe. I say, okay, it will pick it up from there. You see what I'm saying? So that's a bit easier for the user to interact with and digging into UiPath and changing those things manually, right? So, we've accomplished a lot this afternoon, and you are already an automation expert, because really we've deconstructed a complex problem. We have made it simple by breaking it down into steps. We have thought through, what is the fastest way to get this thing to be able to copy the information we need into a location that we can easily reference. We've thought through all of that, and then we've actually executed. And that, in a nutshell, is a summary of building automations. There's nothing I have done here that you need to go to computer science school to learn. Nothing. Now, is it always going to be this straightforward? I don't know. I'm making it look easy because I have done this a number of times, right? If you had to figure it out, you might not find it as easy as I have just demonstrated, but you can clearly understand that it is doable, right? You can see that you can accomplish a lot. So, is this process that you will follow no matter the problem anyone describes to you? What is important is that, is it done on a computer? Is it repetitive? Does it have some of the attributes we discussed in the last class as a process? It's done now. And then once it does, you go for it. So go to click on projects, go to the folder, and then open that. And you'll see that this time it named the worksheet Nestle Water, right? And let's see, if you go to the end, this one had about 271 products, not so many, but you know, it doesn't matter. So if I wanted to do Polo by Ralph again, it doesn't matter what product I want to do. All I have to do is press play to ask me, what's the product you want to search? And it's done. So as you can see, it doesn't take you much to become an automation guru. I hope, yeah, so these are the activities we've learned, right? And then we learned about variables. So I hope you've enjoyed this class, and I hope to be able to continue the process in the next class, which is, you know, take the next few steps, which are a different sequence of events. Thank you for watching, and I know you're even more excited about becoming an automation guru from the progress you've made. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.